Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you. Ashley, how you doing today?
Girl, I'm good. Ready to get into it. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for today's recap. We are recapping True Story, a Netflix original limited series starring Kevin Hart and Wesley Snipes. Here's a quick synopsis. A tour stop becomes a matter of life and death for a famous comic when the fallout from a night with his brother threatens to destroy everything he's built. Starring Kevin Hart as Kid, Wesley Snipes as Carlton, Tawny Newsome as Billy, William Catlett as Herschel, Paul Adelstein as Todd, and I'm going to highlight Billy Zane as Ari, Lauren London as Monica, Theo Rossi as Jean. We have executive producer Eric Newman, Charles Murray, and Stephen Williams, as well as Kevin Hart, of course. Ashley, this limited series, the ratings are kind of polarizing. Critics gave this series 53%. However, the audience score is 80%, so it's fresh for the audience. And then our fave Google users gave this limited series 92%. What's your score?
We talked about this a little bit off mic. I really thoroughly enjoyed watching this. To your point, it was unexpected treat. Binged it so fast with my family, one sitting. So honestly, I gave it a B+, but it's really low-key a A- for me on enjoyability. I figured things out pretty early on, but I was still on the edge of my seat throughout the entire thing. I got so into it. So it's a B+, A-. What about you?
Well, Ashley, this series was well acted. Wesley Snipes, I wanted to punch him in the face. Kevin Hart. Okay, sir. The gentleman who plays Gene, I've seen him in multiple projects like Luke Cage, other things.
I don't even remember him from Luke Cage. Okay.
Such a great actor. It's called Range, and he has it. The story, I did figure it out, but it's suspenseful, and I didn't see the very, very end coming. So I give it an A- because David and we haven't binged anything in a very long time, Ashley, because of my new work. I am always tired. I'm always falling asleep on the freaking couch. I saved up for this mess. I was like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, girl. It was like one of those you literally are just rolling through.
Seriously. And it helped that most of the episodes, I failed to mention, it's 7 episodes. The first one is 53 minutes, but most of them are a half hour long. So that helps a lot. But yeah, so let's go ahead and say spoiler alert. The series starts out introducing Kid. He had an interview with Ellen. He's a famous comic as well as mega movie star starring in the Megaverse, which is hilarious because we all know
Marvel.
This, exactly. This is the thing now in superhero movies. I'm not going to lie. When I first saw the beginning of this show, obviously with the title True Story, I was like, well, is this Kevin Hart? Because this is essentially Kevin Hart's prototype. Okay.
Exactly.
Friends with Ellen. I love the cameos that we saw with, one of my favorite boos, Chris Hemsworth was his co-star and everything. So
let me say real quick, I heard recently somebody gave a list of the Chris's and they put Chris Pine first. I said, in what universe is Chris Pine first?
Was it in Harlem? Because we've been watching Harlem.
Possibly it was in Harlem.
And that was very, very wrong because Evans is obviously first. But
I'll even give you Hemsworth, but Pine, I digress.
Absolutely give you Hemsworth.
I digress.
As far as I'm concerned, they're tied 1 and 2, and then Chris Pine. But okay. And Pratt is not on the list, even though his first name is Chris. Anyway.
I agree. You're not going to hear any arguments from me.
I was confused. I genuinely thought like, oh, is this Kevin Hart? And then I realized quickly that the character name is Kid.
Yeah.
Did you have that confusion too, Ashley?
Yeah, I was calling him Kevin like the whole time, especially because it's still a K name. So the Kid thing just didn't pick up for me for a little bit. So I was like, hold on, what's Kevin's name? But again, the story I was so engrossed. Who cares what his name is?
I know. So he goes to Philly again, Kevin Hart's real life hometown. He's doing a major stadium tour, and it's one of his favorite stops because he gets a chance to hang out with his older brother, Carlton. You can tell and feel the civil rivalry right away, especially when Carlton kept referring to kids' multi-million-dollar films as little kiddie films. Did you pick up on that, Ashley?
Oh, absolutely. The way they talk to each other after the whole prank on the employee at Four Seasons, because I felt so bad for that man. I was like, I don't know what y'all want this man to do. I don't know what y'all want this little man to do. But yeah, it was like an antagonistic relationship and like conversation. And it was I felt uncomfortable watching it.
Because it was almost like, a slinging test contest in some ways, because he kept saying, well, that kiddie show paid me this $1 million and this, that, the other. And Carlton bringing up his son, Christian, and everything like, oh, well, did he like it? And he's like, well, my son likes everything I do. And I'm just like, this is a lot. Are you happy to see your brother or not?
Yeah. And it seemed very, money based. So, yes. I just immediately thought, oh, it makes sense that he's probably been living off of, or at least supporting, his brother for a very long time, especially once you reach that status. I mean, just as he is in real life, he's a multi-millionaire. So
the goal is billion. So we find out that Carlton actually has his own entrepreneurial endeavors, and he has a restaurant. Unfortunately, it's failing. And guess what? He needs money from his very rich younger brother.
Well, I wanted to add too that it took my second watch to realize that he had called Kevin Hart's accountant and asked for $600,000. I didn't hear that the first time.
He himself called?
Yes.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yes. In that first conversation they had, once they were out in the living room area of the hotel room, he said, Terry told me you called him and asked for $600K. And I was like, wait,
that's bold.
Is the whole start of this whole thing. He had called the accountant first and asked for $600,000. So again, the dynamics were like, oh, he's a leech. You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to call your brother's accountant and be asking for $600K?
And that's obviously a theme that goes on throughout the entire series. The kid has a successful show and there's a celebration. One of the things that I thought was interesting was his manager informed him that his brother wasn't satisfied with VIP. He needed to create something more like a VIP, which was ultimately bullshit, which was hilarious to me because, to your point, the level of entitlement with calling up his freaking accountant and you want to feel special. Like, what is this?
You may be my brother, but you are a diva. And it would have been interesting to hear more about their childhood dynamics, because again, this is older brother acting like this towards younger brother. You know what I mean? The younger brother's the one who's supporting you. So what were those dynamics like when y'all were growing up?
Exactly.
You know? Because that's always awkward. I see that in real life where when the older sibling is the one who kind of relies on the younger sibling, the toll that takes on the sibling relationship.
Well said. Well, I immediately felt like Carlton was a predator because in the celebration of a good show, he was really putting on the peer pressure, getting Kid to drink when we find out that he was in fact 6 months sober. What did this say about Carlton's character for you?
That he is not a good influence on his own brother. Like, he just told you he's 6 months sober, but you're saying, oh, just take a sip, just take a sip. I was over it. I was like,
Same.
Oh, everything that everyone has already just from this little bit of time been saying about you all seems very true. You're a really bad influence on him. You're a leech, as I said, about the whole money situation. So it just doesn't seem like you have your brother's best interests at heart. And there's already like societal pressures to drink, let alone the pressures within your family or friends group when they know that you're fighting a battle of sobriety.
For me, it's like, pick a side, pick one. Are you going to be dependent upon him and his money? So therefore you should want him to be successful in his sobriety. Or do you want to sabotage him and, you know, tell him, oh, take a little sip, take a little sip. Like,
well, he also tried to make it seem like he was a screw up in a certain sense, like, oh, you've fallen off the wagon so many times, so you're going to encourage me to continue down this path of falling off the wagon? Or do you want me to be like you, where I make mistakes? Because we're going to get into it, but Carlton makes a lot of mistakes.
He sure does. Toxic. Well, Ashley, the kid fell off the wagon. He had a really good time. He met this girl named Daphne. They go to his really expensive $5,000 a night hotel room. And we next see Carlton trying to wake Kid up because the girl he was with was dead. What did you think about this at this point, Ashley?
I didn't understand what was happening. Did Kid check her pulse? Why was Carlton in your room? And why are you immediately thinking like a criminal after this situation is discovered? You're a celebrity.
Exactly. So to that point, Ashley, Carlton was the one trying to wake people up. He immediately determined that it was a drug overdose, even though Kid did not partake in these drugs. Carlton discouraged Kid from calling the cops or the ambulance because it just would be a bad look for him to wake up with a dead girl in his bed. So they come up with this plan, and Carlton has a quote unquote friend, Ashley, a friend associated with the Greek mob of Philadelphia named Ari, who knows how to handle these type of situations. So Ashley, this everyday regular man, Carlton, had a hook in his, this is a scandal reference for people who don't know what I'm talking about. Ari comes in, very charismatic. When I first saw Billy Zane, I screamed because, of course, I know and love him from The Mummy as well as Titanic.
I'm glad you say that because I literally have in my notes, I don't think Billy Zane has ever played a role of someone I like. Ever.
Never. But
Hal was atrocious in Titanic. And I only watched the first half. I forget the second half. He's shooting at people.
And, you know, stealing people's babies for refuge.
To get into the boat. I cannot stand Billy Zane. So I already am like, oh, this is not gonna go well. Like,
not
he's
at
always
all.
A bad person.
Always. And I say love loosely, but he's been a part of movies I've enjoyed through the years, even though he has been the antagonist.
He's a good villain. He's a good villain.
Great.
For sure.
And he's really handsome though, like too, which makes it kind of like most psychopaths are. Anyway, I digress. Well, his stint on the show is short, Ashley, because the kid decides to kill him with a charger. I didn't get to that part, but we'll get to that later. Because he was trying to get him to pay $6 million to dispose of this young lady's body. So to clarify further, kid thought he was going to get the hookup. Carlton said, "Oh, I got a friend. He'll hook us up." When Ari got there, he was like, "Oh, so how much do I owe you? Like $50K?" And he was like, "Nah, $500,000 a month for a year." I was confused at this point, Ashley, because for me, I didn't know if he was doing this independent of Carlton, because Carlton seemed like he was like the contact person in this situation. What did you gather?
I thought it was pretty convenient that Carlton was MIA when it was time to talk money. That's what I was thinking during this scene. And I knew that he was going to try him. Like, I was like, oh, he's absolutely going to ask for some outrageous amount of money, because nobody comes and helps you dispose of a dead body, quote unquote, for nothing, for free, or for some measly amount of money. He is a celebrity who makes millions of dollars. So yes. I was talking, I know I do this sometimes probably too much. I was talking to y'all. I'm like, oh, he's about to go wild. Like, he's about to ask for something crazy. 6 million to me, honestly, was still a fairly low figure for what he could have asked for in my mind. So? I really do. I thought he was going to ask for like 20, to be honest. I was like, he's about to go. I really did. I thought he was going to say something crazy because he has so much leverage over him. What can you do? What can you do if he asks you for something crazy? Kill him, as you just already said, which was completely unexpected. The physicality alone, I was like, oh, you know, he's small and it takes a lot of strength to choke someone out.
Yes.
So I didn't see that coming.
It's so funny. I didn't think he was going to go higher then. I thought, well, yeah, that was a big jump from thinking you're going to spend $50K to $6 million. But who's to say once you reach that 6 million at the end of year one, that's
you're not going to keep coming going back. Exactly. Like when he had that conversation with Terry, his accountant, and Terry was like, "You need me to send the cops to your room?" Like, I laughed out loud. I'm like, "Yes, Terry. Yes, he does." Because you have no idea the predicament he's found himself in. Like, you just think I can send you or transfer $500K a month into your brother's account and that we are not going to get audited. We don't have to say where this money is going. Like, what are you talking about? So it was just a clusterfuck.
It was. And to that point, Ashley, guess what they ultimately decide to use as the conduit? The restaurant, as a way to launder that type of money. I have to say, the way that the kid towed off Carlton was like so epic at this point. He's like, how could I think that you were going to handle this? Because that was my point. We went in, even though this is still episode 1, knowing that the dynamics of this relationship, Carlton is the absolute worst when it comes to making life decisions. So why would you, in your need of the most critical situation you probably ever been in, completely depend on him? Like, was that a wise decision?
No.
In your opinion, Ashley?
No, obviously not. I think he was just so out of his depth. And for some reason, he still saw Carlton as his older brother and thought, hey, you're saying you have a guy, you know, Carlton has been in some shady situations before. So yes. I'm sure, you got this covered. And he literally said, don't F me on this one. Don't F me on this one. Like, you should have already known. So it was definitely bad decision making. And I love that they end this episode on "I'm not a killer, but don't push me, Tupac." Because absolutely.
I saw that.
I got so hyped.
And there was a line he told his son who called him scared. He was like, the monster only comes out for people who are scared.
Yeah, so. He had been pushed too far. I mean, I think he thought everybody just thinks they can take advantage of me. I've accumulated this money without ever having my hand out, with ever doing anything underhanded or deceitful. I've done everything I need to do. And now everybody's just trying to come take from me. Take. So he snapped.
He sure did.
But he's such a regular person. I was like, okay, now you've murdered somebody. Can you live with this?
So Ashley, this is where I'm glad that you said that, because this is where I'm like, so you go from a regular person to a straight up gangster, right? Because we go into episode 2 and the goal in this episode is to dispose of the body. him being a celebrity, he has work to do. His first stop is at the Boys and Girls Club, where the kids are going to get a screening of his latest superhero film. He is sick to his stomach, though. I will give him that. But Carlton is like, I don't know what to do with this dead body, which makes sense because these are very average people, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the funniest parts to me was the kid telling Carlton, do it like Ari said, you chop the bones, you break the bones, you fold the body, and that's it. Did you really believe that was how they got rid of that body, and Carlton would be able to duplicate that?
I did not think Carl would be able to do. I said Carlton would be able to duplicate that, because that's so gruesome. You know what I mean? Like, it's a difference between killing somebody and then mutilating a corpse, and doing various things to try to, contort it to be what it needs to be. And Carlton is not about that. Like, as silly and dumb as the decisions he makes, he's not about that life. But I also was wondering, like, do we place a hierarchy on the value of people's lives that makes us feel better about the decisions we make? Because that was one of the things that I thought maybe was why Kid was able to kind of move forward. It's like, well, this guy was a scumbag anyway. He was coming at me for my money, so his life isn't necessarily as valuable as other people's lives. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. There has to be a level of sorting good versus bad in your mind to be able to function, because I think he would not have been able to function.
Yeah, that's a lot. And then to have to go in front of these children.
Exactly. If it wasn't sorted out in his brain, right? He is rude to one of his mega fans. Were you surprised he just snapped on his fan like that? Or do you think the fan was a little bit irrational for expecting him to do more, to be on, so to speak?
I was not surprised that he snapped. He was already going through it. We even saw him go off on Todd. That whole, why don't you just crawl up my ass and check my temperature, when he was looking over his shoulder in the elevator. Like, he was already agitated. He's dealing with a lot. His brother can't figure out how to get rid of this body in his hotel room. And Gene was aggressive in that moment. Like, he told him, like, hey, Gene, not today. Security Hirsch, my guy Hirsch, is trying to step in, and you're still coming at me. But it was still sad to see a grown man crying because another grown man is upset with him.
Feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But it just makes you wonder about the world of celebrity in general, like, to have to always try to keep your composure at all times. I'm not sure I could do that. I'm not sure I'm that person. Yeah.
That's why some of them stay in the house.
No, seriously. I remember Kevin Hart even saying recently that, back in the day, people used to wonder about celebrities and wonder what they might do. Now celebrities have to be worried about what fans are going to do, and be almost nervous because you don't know what strangers how they may react to you anymore. So I can only imagine, it's too much that goes on in general, let alone people having this level of access to you and being crazy about you in this way.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. But again, just overall, the whole keeping your composure, even when you're going through a lot or having really bad days, you're still just a human being, right? He's not a superhero. He's a human being.
Exactly. Well, the stuff keeps piling on him because the Shade Room reports that his ex-wife is dating a all-star baller. But I have to say, the way he handled that news was like, oh yeah, no, that's nothing. I thought that was really funny.
I love that scene. Grow up. Because that's how I felt. Honestly, I was annoyed too. I was like, sis, he's dealing with so much. Nobody care that his ex-wife is seen with some other man. We got big fish out here. We got big fish.
So this is a general question, Ashley, and one that, I can ask multiple times in this recap of the series. Was Kid abusive to his staff?
That is such a good question, Delora. I have that somewhere in my notes. Yes, he is unfortunately abusive verbally towards his staff and at times physically.
Yes.
I don't think I would want to work for him. I get the perks. I get the platform. but he's not a boss that was very endearing to me at all. Like,
not at all.
He snapped and popped off and ordered everybody around. Such. Come on. Like, I didn't appreciate it. I get that you're going through a lot, but these people are still your team. And I just don't think that he handled those dynamics well at all throughout the show. And it made me wonder about Kevin Hart's relationship with his real staff, to be honest with you. Because I remember when he got into it with his trainer that one time.
That is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. But then it's almost like an abusive relationship, because you lash out and then you say, I'm sorry, or what they call love bombing by, in the case of his staff writer, Billy, he tells her in this episode that her jokes sucked and that he's not using them. And she basically told him, just so you know, when you're upset, I'm not your freaking punching bag. I was like, yes, sis. Yes, sis.
Did you notice in this show, everybody else took his shit except for Black women? Neither Monica nor Billy took his shit.
Yes. Because we will tell you about yourself and your mama and your brother.
You got the wrong one today. Well, Monica told him, don't you ever disrespect me and my parenting. I felt that in my spirit.
I sure did. I sure did. Well, Ashley, luckily, because of a dress rehearsal, Kid, not even Carlton, came up with the idea of how to dispose of the body using one of those big sound cases that's big enough to handle a big body, because Ari was a thickums, okay? Oh my goodness. He canceled his rehearsal. He doesn't really go through with it because he had that great epiphany. And he and Carlton disposed of the bodies at night at some random dumpster on who knows what side.
So careless.
But see, the fact that it was in the sheet, y'all should have dumped the whole case. What were you thinking? Opening up the case and then like sheet covered body in the dumpster over here.
Delora, to me, the way they dumped his body was one of the most nonsensical parts of this whole show. Like, do y'all ever even watch an episode of CSI? Fingerprints, like DNA, the inevitability of this body being found by you just throwing it in a freaking dumpster. You know, morbidly, I started asking my family as we watched this how they would dispose of a dead body. You know, just a little light Thanksgiving banter.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm gonna need y'all to be smarter than this if y'all ever find yourself in this situation, God forbid. Because that just to me was so dumb. So dumb.
Yes. It was dumb. And again, normal person turned into a gangster overnight. Kid had the great idea, hey, let's play basketball with the kids because this will be our alibi on the night of, you know, us dumping this body. So we go into episode 3. The big issue with this episode is the fact that we find out that Carlton not only takes money from his brother, but he gets loans from mobsters, Ashley. I was like, this couldn't get worse, could it? Could it?
Silent investors in his restaurant. He's such a pain in the ass.
And that's why I want to say Wesley Snipes acted this part so well, because the way I wanted to punch him in the face on a regular basis, he always had this stupid look on his face like, oh, well, you know, I hate to ask you for some more money. But then as soon as someone tells him about himself, he gets pissed. Like, it was like a running theme, Ashley, from the manager to the fans. Like, don't be a burden to your brother. I guess I don't understand how he was able to reconcile it, because at the end of the day, he still asked for more money, Ashley.
It's so frustrating, Delora, because I know Carltons. Like, I know Carltons. Those people who constantly just have this, I'm just going to go with the flow and make shitty decisions, but the consequences, I don't understand why they're happening, or I don't want to take responsibility for them, or it's not my fault. Like, it was super frustrating to watch, because to your point, he always was so calm, cool, and collected, which again always made me so suspicious. Like, Carlton always seemed like he knew something that I didn't know.
Mm.
And what is that? Because these are high stakes games we're playing here.
We are, especially because he owes these people a lot of money and their brother is missing.
That $600K he asked for. That's who that was supposed to be going to.
That was, yep. And I'm like, where's the money in the restaurant going at this rate? It just seems like,
I mean, Kevin Hart talked about
pit.
multiple businesses that have failed, a check cashing place,
a car wash.
Yeah, like he obviously has been giving him money throughout the years for these businesses. And then Carlton somehow was friends with a Greek gangster and asked him and his brothers to invest. Like, it baffles me.
And one of the things that I really hated about Carlton at this point is he still had Ari's phone. I was like, tracking much? Like, this doesn't make any sense. So this was part of the suspense because I'm just like, so you mean to tell me y'all were able to dump this body? Okay, cool. But you're still carrying around his cell phone and you see his brothers blowing up his phone. What were you going to do with this?
Well, remember, he tells Kid that it was a burner phone, so it's untraceable and he doesn't have Find My Friends and all this BS. But to your point, why keep the phone? Like, there's really no point in you keeping tabs on the brothers because the brothers are reaching out to you too.
Yes.
So it's not like that's your only resource to know what's happening with them. It's just another dumb Carlton thing.
Absolutely. Ashley, the big reveal of this episode was, so in efforts for Kid to repair the relationship with Gene, his biggest fan, because he was getting a ton of bad press about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He invited him backstage to his second night. And what baffles me, Ashley, is the fact that Gene has so much access to Kid right before he got on stage. He informed him that he was hurt by the interaction they had the day before. So he followed him all last night and had videos of him and his brother dumping that body. Ashley, I put in my notes, he needs better security. What?
Well, you know, all he got is Hirsch, but I knew Gene was going to be problematic. And I was like, is he about to try to blackmail him? Like, where is this going? It reminded me of a film that Halle Berry did years ago with her and Bruce Willis, where it seemed like everybody she was close to eventually tried to like blackmail her and she had to kill them. I think it was like Perfect Stranger or something like that it was called. And I was like, so is this where we're going? Is he going to have to murder everybody he encounters to cover his steps? Like, that was my train of thought with this scene.
It's so funny that you say that because I was telling Dave that I was like, oh, we got to keep count of this body count.
Exactly.
Situation.
Like, he's just about to turn full Dexter. Like, I just got to take everybody out.
Exactly. Episode 4, you know, in the last episode, though, to be honest, Kid thought he was, you know, scotch free. It was like, I did something bad, but guess what? It's taken care of. But this Gene revelation turned his life upside down because he completely bombs his performance. So he's not made of steel, Ashley. Were you surprised that he bombed?
No, I mean, the inevitability of being able to the inevitability of having a meltdown, I should say, after you literally had 30 seconds to get on stage and you find out that he has video evidence was a lot to take in. The inevitability of having a meltdown after 30 seconds left and you just find this out and you find out somebody has video evidence makes sense to me because, again, it's Kevin Hart. So I was just thinking about in real life, if Kevin Hart froze and had an issue on stage one time, it would be totally forgiven. The press would be spun to say, oh, he was exhausted or family emergency or something happened. So he would be fine. So I didn't feel like it was the end of the world. It was just like, what are we going to do about Gene? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like, I wasn't even worried about the performance or that any of that at that point. It was like, what are we going to do about Gene?
And Ashley, I found the movie I was talking about earlier. It is called The Fan, and it came out in 1996, and it's about an all-star baseball player becomes the unhealthy focus of a down-on-his-luck salesman. So, yeah, movies about crazy fans. That's where I was trying to get at. Yeah, and to your point, Kids management team they weren't that concerned about it. I mean, they knew it was bad, but they felt like, hey, he can get right back on this horse and try again because he's a superstar. We can do this.
We're more concerned about his mental health and well-being. What's really good?
But what was funny to me was Billy was like, let me go ahead and get on this open mic real quick. And part of me, what do you think her motivation was? That do you think was it because he bombed, or that she knew that, you know, she has to get these jokes going, so she needs to, you know?
Well, it was because I think she wanted to start getting her material together for Madison Square Garden because yes, he was having such a good day. Yes. He offered her the opening at Madison Square Garden. That's and she had not been back on stage. So this was a chance for her to hone her craft. And remember, she was like, well, watching him bomb made me realize I'm too in my head. Like, I need to go ahead and strike while the iron's hot and take this opportunity. And girl, I remember when he first proposed and she was like, am I ready? I'm like, sis, are you ready? You better get ready. What are you saying? This is the garden.
I get that though, at the same time, especially when you're caught off guard.
No, ma'am. You better ma'am. You better take that moment to yourself and be like, oh shit, can I do this? Oh, I better figure out how I can do this, because to Todd's point, this is a once in a lifetime career opportunity.
That's real. That's real.
If you ain't ready, you better get ready real quick.
Real quick. Kid goes to Carlton's, because I forgot Carlton lives there. He's in Philadelphia, right? He really doesn't see his brother that often. And girl, they get in a fight. I knew they were going to go to blows, but what did you think about Herschel not stopping the fight?
It made sense to me because he was fed up with Kid at this point. Kid had, antagonized him, was talking trash, had lost his mind. I can't remember. I think he had punched Hersch in the face at this point.
He sure did.
So, Hersch is like, hey, I'm about to go ahead and let y'all resolve this. Let y'all get this tension out of the air, because too, nobody likes Carlton. So,
nobody.
Who cares?
Everybody on his team understands how toxic he is. And the fact that oh my goodness, before they started going to blows, when Kid was like talking about the two bodies, Carlton was like, what two bodies? I didn't do any of this. This is all you. And he was just like, we're in this together. If you need my money, it is us. We are we. And I was just like, I know he ain't trying to really distance himself, is he?
Yeah, he was trash for that, because he tried to make some like, oh, these are your mistakes that you're making. Who put me in this position, Carlton? Yes, I'm a grown man and I own my mistakes as well in this, but let's be real. Or you brought Ari into my life. You brought this young lady from the club into my life. So that's true. We are absolutely now in this together. We're all in this together.
Exactly. Well, there were two lines in this interaction that I want to highlight right now. So the first was Kid. He said, I can't have this man have this much control over my life. And they're talking about Gene in this video. And the look on Carlton's face when he said that was very rich. I'm not going to lie. And then the second was, we should have called 911 when Daphne OD'd. So regret is definitely setting in at this point.
But Delora, only brothers can get into a fist fight and then sleep in the same bed together.
Oh, yeah. Always. Guys are very interesting in that way, right?
Yeah. Let the tension get out of the air first. I'm not sleeping with you.
Because it's all testosterone driven anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although these are hot. Very, very real issues, though. So Ashley, to your point, they get up the next day and they figure out they got to do something with Gene, because guess what? He cannot be out here with an entire video hanging over Kid's head like this. So the idea was to potentially take him out, right? But Kid quickly realized this dude just wants to feel wanted. So let me put him in our circle. I'm not going to lie. When he asked this man to meet him in some abandoned alley somewhere, I'm like, Gene, are you okay? This is when I knew Gene wasn't all there, Ashley. How about you?
But Delora, it was still broad freaking daylight and I could see traffic behind them. So you really gonna kill him out in broad daylight?
kid fumbling the gun. I'm like, what is going on here? Oh my gosh.
Again, not smart decisions, because I was like, this would have been so dumb. Yet again, somebody probably would have ended up seeing you and the cycle would have continued. And what are you going to do with the body? We saw the dumb moves y'all made with Ari's body. Y'all just going to leave this man's body out here?
That's what I'm saying, Ashley. But see, again, to
maybe we watch too many murder shows and films because I just don't understand the thought process.
Exactly. Exactly. I felt like Gene wasn't all there also because he walked up to Kid and was like, what happened yesterday? All surprised. How about he froze? I'm like, sir.
But that was just such comedic timing to me because Kevin Hart gave him that look like, you happen to be, Gene. You happen to be. Like, I know this is supposed to be really serious, but I still laughed. Like, there were definitely moments where I still laughed out loud. And then Gene is so obsessed with him, he keeps all his memorabilia in his trunk. I was like, does he even live in Philadelphia? Like, I'm confused at this point. Great question. Where does Gene live? What does he do for a living? Yes. How does he support himself? Because he was staying at the motel, but like, I don't think he lives in Philly. He said he's literally at all his shows. Gene, what do you do with yourself?
What do you do with yourself?
How do you make money?
As I mentioned before, Kid invites Gene to his circle. He puts him on a social media live post. Gene's personal Instagram numbers go up.
Behind the scenes, Gene.
Are we as a society so easily persuaded by social media and attention and celebrity? Like, these are all frivolous things, Ashley.
I don't think the social media part really mattered to Gene. I think he was already such a super fan just of kids that just added some layer of connection. But I did wonder, who are these fans who just abruptly start following a random person? Like, I love Beyonce, you love Beyonce, but if Beyonce hopped on a live and said, guys, this is my number one fan, start following them on IG, I would not.
Yeah,
I would not. So that's more so what I wondered is like, does he have this many other like super fans where it's like, hey, this is my guy behind the scenes, Gene. Follow him on social. That's the power of social.
If you think about it, if kids posts are only, official photography behind the scenes, if you want to see some behind the scenes and Gene is going to get it, you're going to follow that account. So
that is a good point. If you want some access that you may not have gotten before, then you need to follow Gene's account. Again, I'm just not that big of a super fan of anybody where I care that much, I guess.
Not at all. Not at all. And what's killing me is the fact that the video still is not deleted at this point, Ashley.
Nope.
So Gene is in the circle, and at this point, Carlton and Kid, they have some level of relief, but Kid is apparently in a good enough headspace that he agrees to pay off the mob for Carlton. And Carlton is just ecstatic at this point. So let's go ahead and go into the next episode. I found this very interesting, Ashley. I didn't bring this up prior, but there was an obnoxious fan on a plane that Kid and his team met, and he recited the N-word joke. And there's 50 ways of saying the N-word, and it's okay because I'm saying the and not the ER. This is the gentleman that the charger comes from, which is kind of ironic as well. He runs into him again at the stadium where he bombed that night, but he asked if he could perform at a fundraising gala. The original thought was to give it to Billy since she needed to prep for the stadium tour, but because Kid bombed, he wants to use this gig as a way to getting his feet wet. Did he steal this gig from Billy? Out of jealousy, because I also forgot to mention her open mic set went extremely well and she was getting a lot of traction on social media.
I don't know. I was confused on this about my feelings of whether he felt some type of way about Billy possibly upstaging him at the Ha Ha Hut, or if he genuinely did need this as a motivation or a booster after what happened. And I give him the latter. Like, I want to think it's the latter, because at this point in his career and his success, there's no reason to be jealous of Billy. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a competition. So
I don't know. Egos are interesting.
That is true. That is true. She is one of his writers too. So there's always that dynamic of, I mean, she does write some really good stuff for you. But I think, again, I do think a large part of it had to do with him needing to kind of get back into the game. And he has so much going on. Let's go ahead and do a lower budget, lower exposure opportunity and see if I can make it through. So, and his suit was fire. So I love this scene.
Yeah. Behind the scene, Gene, there with him, taking all the pictures. But one of the things that was interesting was he used this opportunity to rag on that gentleman who wanted to say Negro, Negro, Negro in his face.
Justified.
And, I mean, are artists responsible for how their audience receive their content?
No, not like that. In my opinion, not like that, where you as a white man choose to come into my face and antagonize me with a word that you know is steeped in racist and bigoted oppression towards my people. No, you do not have that right, sir. And you and your black boss that was in the audience are fully aware. So kid was absolutely justified for embarrassing and exposing. Y'all see how hard I'm saying these words? Embarrassing and exposing.
I'm here for everything.
Racist wheel from that plane. Okay, I was here for it. 2 snaps all day. Get his ass.
I'm gonna let that breathe for a moment. Well, Gene was not having it. He didn't like it at all, because for him, this is starting to be a trend for Kid. And as we know, this is not where we needed this situation to go.
Yeah, but Gene ain't black. That's why he didn't understand. And that pissed me off too in this scene. That pissed me off so much. Like, you're not black, so I guess you can't understand. You're still a person of color, but obviously you can't understand. Your mind is more triggered by the fandom than it is the racism of this moment. And that really bothered me for Gene.
Well, at this point, though, I'm not going to lie. Watching it, I thought I understood Gene's point to an extent, because Kid was so aggressive when he was aggressive, right? And so it's like, he can be an absolute asshole. You know what I mean?
He can be. But again, if he were a black person, he would understand this moment. He would understand.
It had to be done.
Thank you. Like, I'm telling you what happened. I said in the jokes during the scene, during that time, what happened, but you're still looking at it as, this guy is a fan. You're not understanding the racial dynamics of the situation, which outweighs this current sentiment you have about how I treat fans. You know what I mean? Obviously, again, to your point that we talked about earlier, he's antagonistic. We've seen to his staff. He's not always A1 with the way that he comes across towards people. But in this moment, Gene annoyed me. This is the one time Gene really annoyed me. So
yeah. Well,
and that's my blackness. So whatever.
You know, this situation is extremely fragile, and Kid goes all the way to Gene's motel to have a conversation with him. The conversation, again, Gene asking him, why are you so mean to your fans? And then it gets to the video and he asks, did the person deserve it? Right. And he realized that Kid could do more for the world by deleting the video than actually keeping it.
Again, hierarchy in terms of people's lives, because you're saying that his life is so valuable that these deeds must not be criminal. You know what I mean?
And it was just simply a mistake, Ashley. Of course.
Yeah, he was doing what he had to do. Well, Carlton, again, he has these moments throughout this whole season where he seems very perturbed when people talk about brotherhood. There was a
him looking at Jean's Instagram site, I guess Kid made a joke like, oh, he's my light-skinned brother or something like that. And Carlton was just not having it. And I almost wonder if that was part of his motivation for dropping off Ari's expensive as Rolex.
Set him up.
Saying, oh no, since you're in the circle, here's a gift.
Set him all the way up. I also think it was, who else was he possibly going to set up overnight? Because you have Ari's brothers who have now gone to the Four Seasons, are closing in, are going to go get the video footage in the morning. So his window of opportunity was really closing, and Jean was an easy mark. But it was very unfortunate to see him set up Jean in this way. Jean is an innocent bystander. And we've already seen one innocent man get killed, Ray.
We did. That's a great point, Ashley. The other point that I thought was very interesting was Jean asking Carlton for a favor. He asked him to not be a burden for his brother Kid. I thought that Carlton was going to go ahead and do the deed himself at that point.
I did too. But again, Carlton's not a killer. So I was curious, if he did kill him, like, would it be, how would he go about it? Because it's just not his MO throughout the show. But I was worried about Jean's life. Obviously, at this point, I was like, Jean's not gonna make it.
I just thought this wasn't the wisest decision either, because I'm like, Jean is so close to your brother.
Exactly.
Why would you frame him?
Exactly.
That was not smart.
How did you not see the flaws in this plan? But he doesn't see the flaws in any of his plans.
No. That part.
Not surprising.
That part. And in the next episode, Jean is beat up to death by the Greek mob. To your point, Ashley, the brothers have been on a rampage because their mother gave them the green light to say, you know, seek all the corners of the earth for whoever killed your brother.
So did you think that they were going to get caught though once the cops found Ari's body? Did you think that they were going to catch them? Did you think the police were going to catch them?
The brothers?
No, did you think the cops were going to catch Carlton and Kid once they discovered his body?
No, I didn't think so. I thought the Greek mob would have reached them before the cops, for sure.
See, I was worried. I was like, oh, now the shit's about to hit the fan, because now they done found the body and they about to do forensics and y'all about to be exposed. And Carlton had a friend on the police force this whole time? Okay.
This whole time. Ashley!
I just could not deal with it, Dora. I could not deal with it.
Well, Kid gets a knock on his door, and it's the detectives, and they inform them of Jean's death. And that shakes Kids up, because at this point, Carlton was kind of going rogue.
Yeah. But that split second decision where Jean realized that he was going to sacrifice his life for Kid. How did you feel?
Oh, that's an excellent question, Ashley. And thank you for bringing it up. I thought it was interesting because, like, to your point, he covered Kid this entire time. He didn't even bring up Carlton, and Carlton was like right there. So, you know, he ultimately ended up being ride or die. I always felt leery of his character up until this point. I had a conversation with my mom, and she made some really great points. She was like, we have to remember that the word fan is derived from fanatic. And we all know that there have been crazy fanatics to, you know, hurt celebrities, i.e. Selena, i.e. John Lennon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was concerned that Jean was capable of something on that level. When we get to the point where he sacrificed himself, I'm just like, dog, really?
Yeah. I mean, really? I get that he did the whole conversation about feeling like Kid is the reason why he did not harm himself and possibly take his own life previously. Mm-hmm. But that was wild. How many people would sacrifice themselves for anybody, let alone a celebrity that you idolize? Like, that was wild.
Yeah. And to my point earlier, Jean seemed like a very peculiar person in the sense of how much of a fan he was for Kid. It's like, what type of man was he? Like, we didn't know where he lived, but he could identify the type of Rolex that Ari had. Like, who are you? Like,
exactly.
I don't understand,
Yeah, exactly. We didn't get a lot on his background besides the few things that we did here. But it's almost like he had an addictive personality, and his addiction was his devotion.
Yeah, that's a good point. The kid gives his statement to the police because, unfortunately, the first night as behind the scenes Gene ended in his death, unfortunately. And it's a bad look for kid, frankly. Like, all this freaking death. At this rate, how many bodies are we at? 4? The girl, Ari, Ray, now Gene.
Yeah. And again, it's getting all this press now. How are the brothers not going to see this, Carlton?
Exactly. Exactly.
Goof.
Especially with the amount of kid information he had on him. I'm surprised that the brothers didn't find it in the actual motel.
That's what I was thinking too. He had put it back in his car because I was like, all that was out when Carlton came and visited him earlier. So he's lucky that he ended up putting it back. I mean, so short-sighted. And Laura, he's from Philadelphia. This would have been local and national news, right? Like, there's no way that if they even turn on the television, they would miss this story.
Whew. Kid thought he was a suspect, and the precinct was like, of course not. But can you sign this picture? Again, blinded by celebrity, I feel like.
Absolutely. That's absolutely a very real depiction.
Kid meets Carlton at the infamous restaurant. I have to say, it was a good looking restaurant. I give him that. My only deal is, why wasn't it open? But I know they were failing, and the only thing he had left was his liquor license.
Exactly.
The brothers have like a whole kumbaya moment saying like, hey, Gene had to go. You did the right thing. Thank you for protecting me. And after the tour, we can come back and look at the restaurant and see what we can do with it. Ashley, did you think this was an important moment in their relationship?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like they were in a good place. They bonded over this insanity. And I think it was a point where
they call it trauma bonding.
Exactly. Where, Kid had turned the corner and thinking that Carlton really had protected him and had his back and hadn't let him down for once with the way that he handled things. Yeah, unfortunately, lives have been lost, but he felt like, oh, you put me over everything. So he really appreciated that and even wanted to, have him around more, wanted to take him on tour with him. So it was important. Mm-hmm. It was important at that moment. That's all I'll say.
Kid helps Carlton home in his bed. Carlton's phone is blowing up. It is yet another person asking for money. And this said person is named Simone. Kid opens up his phone, and the big reveal happens when we find out that Simone is in fact Daphne, the dead girl in his bed.
Knew that chick wasn't dead.
I knew if she wasn't either. And Kid is gutted.
Who needs family when you got family like Carlton? Who needs it?
Ashley, when I tell you, I had an inkling that she wasn't dead because there was no body. So my deal is this, Ashley. When Ari was going through how he got rid of the body, I'm like, this feels like BS to me. Oh, you just break the bones and you fold it up and, you back out. So the cameras, I'm like, you're talking too much. You're talking too much for my liking.
Well, all of that stuff was actually factual because that's how they had to get rid of his body in terms of how you could go about it, right?
Yes.
But from jump, Delora, it was BS because why is Carlton in my room? Why is he checking the pulse of the chick laying next to me?
The night. That was my question too, because I'm just like, celebrities have reward relationships with their team, right? But yeah, at 3:00, why are you in my room shaking this chick? That doesn't make any sense.
There's no
And
blood. It wasn't a murder. So
was she cold? Like, I don't
exactly.
understand.
Exactly. I was so disappointed still, even though I had guessed this so early on. I was so disappointed to be right. Damn.
Actually, it was awful. It was awful. So in the final episode of the series, Kid is stunned by the revelation that Carlton was, in fact, behind this whole thing. Like, he caught bodies over some stupid scheme, some stupid, wasn't even well thought out scheme that Carlton did
to extort his own brother.
I thought it was interesting because he found out all this information and still decides to go to a basketball game, you know, sweets and everything. And guess who was excited about it? Carlton, who was mooching off of his little brother and his fame. He was given a lot of I love yous, my brother, and like enjoy yourself. And girl, Kid let Carlton know that he knew what was really going on. What did you think about Herschel not really closing the door, though? Were you okay with that during that time?
I thought it was at the time for like protection to make sure that nothing, you know, popped off. But at the same time, I wondered, like, so are you overhearing this conversation and gonna kind of know what the real reality of the situation is?
Yeah.
But I was still thinking about the fact that, you know, Carlton dangled his own girlfriend in his brother's face. She wasn't even a random. I couldn't get over the audacity and just atrocities of his betrayal. Like, it was next level.
Next level. And Ashley Kid tells him, "You're dead to me." Mm-hmm. He was like, "I told you I loved you, just so you know that that's what it was. Mm-hmm. But you destroyed that.
You broke my heart, Fredo. Godfather. You broke my heart."
The Greek mob shows up at the game.
Because they saw that damn news story. Okay.
They did. They saw Carlton again. Him being unable to really think things through. I'm like, the circle is too small for you not to get hit. Like, I don't understand why he, but again, he was a notorious F up. So why are we surprised that he F'd this whole thing up? The first F up is when he tried to extort his brother and he ended up killing somebody. Problem number one. Anyway, there's a major chase scene. I have to say at this point of the series, Ashley, when Kid is able to get the perfect headshot for both the guys, that was a little bit hard to believe.
Yeah, I said, where did he learn how to shoot like this? Like, is he taking, you know, going to the range regularly? Possibly. Maybe Hirsch was like, if I'm gonna protect you, I'm gonna need you to know how to use a gun. That's possible, but those were clean headshots.
I mean, one shot only per person, and I was really stunned by that. Mm-hmm. But of course, Carlton goes into his normal mode of, you know, put all the dirt on me. I got you. I know we can talk to the cops. Kid is stunned. And in a surprising turn of events, Kid kills his brother.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
I wasn't sure. I was like, is he going to kill Carlton or isn't he?
I screamed. I was like,
hard. Yo! Even with everything that happened, it's hard to kill your own brother.
But Carlton was dead to him at that point. So
I understand, but it's still hard to kill your own brother.
I agree. I'm not saying it's not, but $6 million. Now, my question is this to you, Ashley. Was Carlton behind that $6 million? Or do you think Ari added that?
No, I think Carlton was behind the entire thing, because even when you had the meetup that that Kid did with Simone, she said that it was all Carlton's idea and that he brought Ari in. So I think that he was planning on getting his cut. Ari was going to get his cut. She was going to get her cut. And yeah, I think he had that whole thing planned out, which is, again, just wild. Who needs family when you got family like Carlton? He says there at the end, like, all this time you've been telling me I need to be protected from other people. I need to be protected from you.
Of course, the acting is cued, and he is devastated by the death of his brother. We are flash forward. Kid tells his manager and Herschel the whole story. Now, one of the things that I was surprised by is that he didn't tell his manager or Herschel. I think they would have been in that circle and would have been able to make a better plan if any of this stuff were true. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, his thought during the first episode was to call Todd and try to get him to help, but Carlton, advised him against it. But at the same time, I was thinking, he's trying to minimize the damage to possibly members of his team. So I almost saw it as more of a protection at a certain point, because I don't want you guys to be accomplices to the nonsense and shenanigans that are going on. But Herschel,
my brother,
Herschel really disappointed me.
Ashley, to that point, he was like, you could have gotten Billy killed, and how much were they trying to steal from you? I want that. I was like, where did he get the audacity to ask for this type of money? He just told you he killed a man who asked him for this amount of money, and you're going to go and ask him. And mind you, we did learn at one point in the series that he is like some 5-time black belt or something like that. But still, this little man is willing to do whatever it takes not to pay somebody if he doesn't want it.
Exactly.
But surprisingly, Kid agrees. Were you surprised that Kid agreed to that?
I wasn't surprised Kid agreed. I was just so disappointed because it made Hirsch seem so disloyal. Like, I get it. You just took a bullet for him. You were worried and concerned about your life and Billy's life, who you've been dating this whole time. But it made him seem so disloyal. And then you have Todd, who didn't ask for a dime. So I really didn't like that dynamic.
I was going to ask, do you feel like Todd feels entitled to ask for money at this point?
I don't. They made it seem like Todd is the most ride or die on his staff, to be honest. I didn't like that dynamic. So I felt like some type of way.
What I didn't like is this. So he gives a whole CNN interview with Don Lemon. Again, all the name dropping, all the cameos. I loved it. And he apparently tells the tale, obviously not incriminating himself, of course, but essentially blaming everything on his brother and the Greek mob. The part where I was like, so this is how we're going to end it. He talked about, and he alluded to this too when he talked to Todd about how at the end of the day, nobody cares about your story. They just want the show to go on. And in the end of his interview, he said that, what my family want for me is to be successful. So I want to finish my tour and do these movies and be successful. I just was like, okay, so we're just going to all blame it on success. I thought that was thin. What about you?
I didn't take that as like a moral of the story. Maybe that's, as a celebrity, a message he wanted to put out there, that like, as celebrities, maybe they feel like at the end of the day, nobody cares what the truth is, as long as they continue to perform and generate money and generate, whatever their craft is. My moral of the story is people ain't shit, and be careful with decisions you make. Like, flat out. Those are my morals from that story.
Oh my God. Do you have any final thoughts on this series?
Girl, I am embarrassed to say that I did not realize Monica was Lauren London, my girl, until that FaceTime in episode 6. I did not recognize her voice for whatever reason. Lauren, happy 37th birthday, boo. I love you. But I also, with their dynamic, I was like, if his real life wife favors Lauren a little bit. So I was like, I may have taken this some type of way, to be honest. Like, are you sending me a message, Kevin, that you did this like this? They were such friendly exes.
Yeah, I think he is genuinely friendly with his ex now anyway.
Yeah, the other ex-wife, but I was still wondering, like, is this a message to your current wife? Like, I was curious. I was curious because it was a little bit of like, And then I was also wondering,
they kept telling each other that they loved each other, even though they weren't together.
Thank you. So I was like, should we revisit this divorce? Because who still tells their ex-spouse that they love them? Even Reba and Brock on Reba, they were super friendly. They didn't go that far.
Well, Ashley, to our hot topics last week, some men just need to be single. You know what I mean? And stop playing these games, acting like they're going to be faithful in relationships, i.e. Tristan Trashbag.
Ugh. I mean, he did have this one little moment with the chick at the hotel, right? So he got that off. But Yeah, that was really my last thought about it, was my girl Lauren. But overall, again, I was so engrossed in this. This really did have me riveted. I'm finding Kevin very enjoyable in dramatic roles. So I hope he continues to go down this path. Even though I have to say, I think a lot of comedians do really well with drama when I think about it. So Kevin, keep doing your thing. Wesley, aka Carlton, you ain't shit, boy.
But he acted his ass off.
He did.
Wesley Snipes, welcome back to Hollywood, because he's been killing it. Like when he did that movie with Eddie Murphy.
Coming to America?
No, not Dynamite, when he played the blaxploitation character.
Oh yeah, I never finished that movie. Sorry.
Wesley was the best part of that movie.
He was funny in Coming to America too.
And then Coming to America, yeah. So I'm happy to see his comeback. So my final thoughts are, it was a tough story on sibling rivalry, like when that goes wrong, right?
If that's rivalry more than sibling envy,
yeah. But it's a level of rivalry in the sense of, to Gene, he was like, you helped make him because you exposed him to comedy and things like that. And I'm sure there may be a level of, hey, I was part of the journey too. Whereas Kid, I'm sure, did so much more, because he was very adamant to point that out too. Like, hey, this didn't come to me overnight.
If you think about it, we went from such great sibling dynamics in King Richard last week to these sibling dynamics in True Story. Interesting.
And I thought it was interesting because the writing was so funny to me at the celebration on episode 1. He was like, I promise you that Carlton will no longer F up my life after tonight.
He said that to Todd, and I was like, "Whoa, Jesus!"
I was like, "These are some famous words, aren't they?"
Mm-hmm. Yep, the power of the tongue. You never know.
You never know. You never know. So, great job, Kevin Hart. Great job, Kaz. Great writing. On the edge of my seat. Had to figure out what was going to happen next. This was definitely a ride and something unexpected, right? It didn't get a bunch of promotion. I think it's getting a lot of traction off of word of mouth, which is super important, kind of like Squid Games, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, Ashley, if there's nothing else, let's go ahead and get into our hidden gems.
All right. I have 3 this week. My first one is Instant Hotel on Netflix. This is another real estate show. Y'all know I love real estate shows. Set in Australia, groups of 2 compete against each other for a prize and rate each other on their experiences staying in their homes, aka their instant hotels. There's 2 seasons available on Netflix. Season 1 got pretty vicious in terms of the competition side of it, which I didn't really enjoy. But with some tweaks to the format, a change of host, and a bigger prize, season 2 was much better. So I definitely recommend it if you like the reality real estate shows like I do. Beautiful, very interesting scenery, as well as, some very unique stays and very unique homes. So again, that's Instant Hotel on Netflix. Number 2 is not hidden. It's Bruised on Netflix, but I have to give Halle Berry her flowers. Halle Berry. Watch this the day it dropped. The fact that even Halle Berry at this point in her career, with all her accomplishments, still fights to create opportunities with this directorial debut. Like, I just felt so proud of her. And Halle, live your best life, girl. I know you just signed a multi-picture deal now with Netflix. Like, you still out here popping. Do your thing, Halle. Love you. Last and final, we talked about this with the Chris's, but it's Harlem on Amazon. If y'all have not seen it, I wondered if we were going to have deja vu from Run the World, which we recapped from Stars. But for me, even though it's still set in Harlem, 4 girlfriends, it was a different vibe, and I really enjoyed it.
So much fun.
Loved that Cousin Skeeter reunion.
Yes.
And Ian, period. This is going to be on me and Dolores recap list for sure come January.
Because I also love Jamerson. So yes.
They had a great group of guys on this show. I will say. So that's my 3 for this week. Again, Harlem is on Amazon. Dolores, what are your hidden gems this week?
Thank you, Ashley. So I have in front of a studio audience, specifically The Different Strokes. I wanted to highlight that, considering we just did a Kevin Hart series with True Story, I just want to highlight the range, because I mean, he's out here acting like a young boy talking about, what you talking about, Willis? And he is a cold stone murderer in this series we just recapped. So I just wanted to highlight that. Okay, so the other hidden gems I have: Abbott Elementary. It is a new series on ABC from creator Quinta Brunson. She was famous on the internet at first, and then she was on a Black Lady sketch show, and now she has her own show. It is so funny. It's about a group of teachers in an underfunded school in Philadelphia. Again, Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Starring Tyler James Williams. You know, we know him from Everyone Hates Chris and Walking Dead. Shout out to everybody who watched the show. Shirley Lee Ralph. Amazing. I think this role is perfect for her. And then we have Lisa Ann Walter. So I'm super excited to see what the series is going to do. First episode just dropped. A lot of fun. I
had so many flashbacks with this cast from childhood. You got Chessie from The Parent Trap. You got Cheryl Lee Ralph, yes, the mama from Sister Act 2. You got Everybody Hates Chris. I'm like, yo, I'm reliving childhood moments just watching this.
I was too geeked about the lady from Parent Trap. I was like, yes, my second hidden gem isn't really that hidden, but it's fire. Doja Cat released her music video for her single Woman. If you all are avid listeners to our podcast, you know that Doja Cat's latest album was one of my hidden gems, and Woman was one, if not the favorite song from that album. So the fact that we have a visual, I am so excited. Doja is a freaking star. She is problematic, yes. But is she canceled? No. Because
did you see that post asking if she could be beyond, like, Beyonce level?
Girl, yes. Nobody cares to answer those stupid questions. I mean, I feel like whenever people put Beyonce in a question, they want people to just
get upset,
get riled out. Period.
Yeah, exactly.
Doja has the range in terms of a performer. I you know, she's a great rapper. She can hold a note, but her performances are everything. And sis was killing it with the looks and the choreography in this music video. And our girl Tiana Taylor is featured in this music video with her amazing abs. There are several references from this music video that I noticed. Remember the Times, Michael Jackson, giving me several vibes there, as well as my favorite Beyonce song, Baby Boy music video. There's certain things in her music video that I'm like, yep, I see it. Highly recommend. And my final hidden gem, HBO Max, The Sex Lives of College Girls.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned how I have been unable to binge television. So after True Story, I went ahead and started the series on HBO Max. It is such a delight. It is a Mindy Kaling project. Ashley and I are very well versed in her shows. We love the Mindy Kaling project, as well as Never Have I Ever.
And this is no exception. It's actually refreshing. This is refreshing for me.
That is, thank you. It is vibrant. It's quirky. It's funny. It's irreverent. And I love every moment of it.
And Delora just informed me Timothée Chalamet's sister
is on the show.
Is one of the main stars. Who knew?
Who knew? So highly recommend. A lot of fun. And that's all I have today, Ashley.
Okay, awesome. Well, guys, as always, thank you for tuning in and listening to us. We may have more on Sex Lives of College Girls coming at you, so be sure to stay tuned on that. But otherwise, as always, let us know if you have any feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Be blessed. We'll see you next time.
Bye.